Are women over 35 cooked?
So you can't say on one hand, single mothers are an issue, and then on the other hand, clown somebody who don't want to be a single mother.
And I really kind of feel some kind of way like you're telling people how to get some you don't actually have. When Kevin Samuels was still alive, everybody was like, oh, well, you're not married. How are you giving relationship advice? Well, if we got to disqualify what Kevin Samuels said, by that standard, we got to disqualify Cheyenne Bryant too.
Paul Pierce would probably be age appropriate for maybe Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. In his eyes, he looks at her and he thinks, oh, she's cooked. This conversation about Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, and by extension, Sarah Fontenot, I think hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right, is, are women cooked? Cooked, baked, flambéed, you know what I'm saying? Baked even, right? That's after 35. Cheyenne Bryant, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, was, I think, on The Truth After Dark with Paul Pierce. I mean, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? You know, Paul will get the truth. You feel me? I mean, that's a little bit of shade. But anyway, she was on the pod, and I guess Paul was like, hey, man, women after 35 are kind of cooked. You dig what I'm saying? And so I think she kind of was like telling him the reasons why that's not true. I found it interesting, though, in part of the conversation, she talked about how she was ready for a baby at 42 and how that would change how she approaches relationships versus when she was in her 30s and 20s. Ironically, I think Paul did get some of the truth out of her. And I don't know if she was aware of how that came across, but nonetheless, the conversation being, are women over 35 cooked? But let me pause right there, because it's not just women, period. Because the problem that I have, right, is, are women who would seem like they should not be single at 35 and never been married at 35 and never had a kid at 35 but still want these things, right? I think, let's be precise. Are those women after 35 cooked, right? Because let's be honest, a lot of us would be like, well, why are these women saying? Listen, before I even get into my riff about this, what are y'all, because I was about to go. I was about to introduce it and then take off. So let me reel it in. So what are you guys' thoughts in regards to the idea that a woman who seemingly has it all and represents a woman who should have everything she wants, but is still single, childless, and never been married at the age of 35, right? Proposals not withstanding. What are y'all thoughts about that? Are women over 35 cooked like goose or geese if they're not? What are y'all thoughts?
Go ahead, S&M. You want to jump in there? You got a nod of disapproval.
I do have a nod of disapproval because first I'm going to say, so here's the problem. So if a woman chose marriage before carriage, and they chose to have career before marriage, before carriage, there's a problem. So we're constantly telling women to close their legs and wait until they're married and whatnot. And if she's not ready to get married until she's after 35, then why the hell does it matter if she wasn't married before 35? Why does it matter that she waited to have a child until after she was 35? If our issues is with the so-called baby mamas and the single mothers of the world, if we're constantly, so you can't say on one hand, single mothers are an issue, and then on the other hand, clown somebody who don't want to be a single mother or have a baby outside of marriage and whatnot. So I call bullshit on all of this because at the end of the day, I feel like this whole ideal, and I'm going to go broad a little bit, even though I know you went very specific, which is why I addressed that first. This whole ideal is so fucking dusty and tired that women are done after 35, especially since the only thing that seems to be cooked to me is y'all delusion, not y'all right here, you two. Well, maybe we'll see what y'all say. But the delusion that women are cooked just because they're reached this age. And so I personally think this is because men tend to reach that their peak at 19 and think because they got a beard and a podcast, no shade, Devin, that make them philosophers or old ass men that may have something going for them. And now after running through age appropriate women, all of a sudden they're leaving heartbreak and baby mamas around, want to turn around and say, well, women are cooked if they're over the age of 35. Nah, you cooked. That's what the problem is because you cook. There's a lot of projection in this. Now, what I will say, because I already know what y'all going to talk about, you're going to talk about at least biologically. Well, you know what? It turns out fertility is not something that's actually an issue for women over 35. Now, if she hitting 50, it might be a little issue there. But thanks to modern medication, she can still have a kid. Now, is the best time to have a kid? Probably not. So you may want to think about that. But at the end of the day, you're not shopping for cattle. Women over 35 can still crank out babies. I know folks in their 42s cranking out babies if that's what the problem is. And I think not every woman wants to be a starter kit anyways. That's the husband and the family and before 35. There's some people who value their careers first. There are some people who value their education first. There are some people who want to be whole, able-bodied adults before they enter marriage with another whole, able-bodied adult. And I'm going to land there because I feel like if I keep going, I'm going to give away some of my nuggets. So let me get y'all feedback. And Devin, once again, no shade because I know you on a podcast with the beard. So I just want to make sure you knew
The
it wasn't that
beard
tea.
slander is amazing. Jeez, I put my good lace front on too. That's crazy. Cheyenne Bryant is. I watched the podcast. I watched the entire Paul Pierce podcast. I took notes. I read the transcript, and he did the Lord's work. Cheyenne Bryant is full of shit. And I'm going to tell you why. She brought this completely on herself. She is 42. God bless her. Now, what's actually happening is she admitted Paul Pierce got this out of her. She's been in a 5-year situationship with a guy 9 years her junior. And he asked her, are you, so on top of all that, he asked her, are you dating? She said, I have companions with an S. So the guy she's in a situationship, he wants a commitment with her. She admitted that. Got to go read the transcript. She's telling him, no, I don't want a commitment with you right now. You got some growth to do or some other, nebulous pseudo, psychobabble. So she's the one stringing him along. And if she wants to be outside, that's cool. But her complaining that she's not getting this thing that she says she wants, I'm like, look, if you want to be outside, that's cool. Just do that. Paul Pierce didn't let her gaslight him. He had to keep walking her to it, but he got it out of her, and now the shit's out there. And I really kind of feel some kind of way like you're telling people how to get some shit you don't actually have or know how to get, and maybe you just don't want it. Because let's think about it like this. And this is why I can't take it seriously. When Kevin Samuels was still alive, everybody was like, oh, well, you're not married. How are you giving relationship advice? You don't have a wife. You're not in a relationship. Well, if we got to disqualify what Kevin Samuels said, by that standard, we got to disqualify Cheyenne Bryant too. She got to get up out the chat. So I can't take it seriously. I'm sorry.
But Dale, did you answer the question? Now, I feel you on that, but I want to see your answer to, are women over 35 cooked? I mean, Cheyenne
I don't think
42.
So. I don't think so. Do I think they have the same options at 25? No, but I don't think they're cooked.
You don't think they're cooked?
No.
Gotcha. Okay. So do you think that women who have, who present...
Who have it all, yes.
Do you think those women are over 35 are cooked?
I think they're in a tough situation because I think women can have, because the argument is like, can women have it all? Yes, you can't have it all at once. And you're running out of time because a lot, again, using Cheyenne Bryant as an example, a lot of the men that she wants, she's literally in the room with these men. Why are they not picking you? Or why did they pick you 5 years? That's the $1 million question.
And thank you for bringing it to where I needed it to be. Pause if necessary. Because here's the thing, right? Cooked is subjective, right? I mean, cooked, the word in and of itself can have multiple meanings and variations of a meaning, right? And then the person applying it, right? So for example, Paul Pierce would probably be age appropriate for maybe Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, or maybe a little bit older, but he's not that much older. Like maybe an older gentleman. I think she would probably go for a nigga his, age and wealth by, for all intents and purposes. But in his eyes, he looks at her and he thinks, oh, she's cooked, right? She's cooked. So
he's 47.
So is it possible, Paul Pierce is 47, right?
He's 47.
Paul Pierce is only 47? God damn, what did I do with my life? But
right? No, like he Asian though.
No, because I thought he was
like
way
53.
older.
I thought he was like 53.
Yeah, but you know what? Perfect, right?
Asian
So
like milk.
That actually proves my point, right? So if she's 42, 47, that's right in the nice little breadbasket of age difference, and he has the wealth, right? And so from his perspective, when he says those women are cooked, he's really talking about her. Right? But not to her face, for real, for real. And by cooked, he means that, yes, I will engage with you for sexual activity and coitus, but for what you want, you're cooked, right? Delvin was saying that nicely, right? Well, she can't have the same expectations, but she still does, right? And if she does, for the guy that she wants to fulfill those expectations, I think the chances are pretty high that to that guy, she's cooked. And does that mean she can't find a couple of guys out there who might fit the profile, who might say, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and wife you. Yeah, that's possible. But let me tell you the other reason I think she specifically is cooked is because the jig is up. Right? When I first saw her, I think she came across a certain type of way. She was an attractive woman. I'm not going to take that away from her. She's attractive. She's very smart, very articulate. But the more I see her, the less of a doctor I see, and the more I see a woman who is trying to relive her hot girl years right in front of us with a little bit more sophistication and class, right? More thirst traps, right? More revealing of some truth that Delvin just told us, right? For the woman who's out here giving this kind of conversation about being healthy, she has a situationship with the nigga who wants to be with her. She's only really keeping the nigga around, right? In case she can't probably find the other nigga that she really wants because her clock is ticking, right? As part of that conversation, she said, hey, I'm 42, right? And I'm ready to have this baby. She was low-key doing a commercial, right? I feel like there was a certain point that when I saw her, every time I saw her publicly, I felt like she was advertising, I want a man, right? It was giving a little thirsty a little bit, right? To a certain extent. And a woman that smart, that capable, and that attractive should not be behaving this way unless she too understands that the heat is rising, that she may be leaning towards the cooked side of the rotisserie. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to be honest. The same way that Black people tell on themselves with the whole carnival thing, I think a lot of these women tell on themselves. And then what they do is they craft a boogeyman narrative to explain why they never got or couldn't get what they say they want. And Delvin, I'm telling you, they say they want these things. They want a man. They want a husband, right? To S&M's point, they want a baby. And I get it, S&M like holding off and all that, but I'm sorry, it's irresponsible if you want a child, if you ever want a child as a woman in your life, to sit there and wait till 35 to start thinking about settling down, finding a husband and having a child. That's ridiculous. I'm not saying you gotta want that. I'm saying if you ever in your life like considering it, then wouldn't you plan accordingly? What the fuck? That don't make no sense. And so now at 42, you're willing to bend. Because that's the other thing she said in the conversation. She's like, I would have that relationship with that man and I would do everything to stay with him. Things that I wouldn't necessarily do in my 30s and 20s. But now, after we have this child, we're gonna make a pact. It doesn't matter. She basically was telling niggas, hey man, you give me a baby, it's up. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Right? That's the sound of a woman who's walking towards the oven, even if she's not fully cooked yet. Right? So, yes. And furthermore, we got to be honest. If these women said they did not want those things, all of us could understand. But you'd have to admit there's some level of curiosity as to why a woman who presents to seem to be everything a man could want. I think we'd be lying if there wasn't a certain level of curiosity, right? Sarah Fontenot, hopefully I pronounced her name right, beautiful influencer. She's smart, seems to have a lot going for herself, right? But she's 37. So just going back to this whole are you cooked thing, do I think women in general are cooked? No. Because I think a lot of women are open to more things that they say they willing are open to, right? I wouldn't do it. Yeah, you lying, right? So a lot of everyday women who don't see themselves as being like these top notch, whatever, they're open to it. So I don't think those women are cooked simply because they're willing to let more people enter their restaurant, if you understand. Maybe that analogy made sense. But these women who seem to only cater to a certain audience, right? I'm talking about those women. That's why I started off by saying I want to focus on them because I think there are guys of their ilk who are passing them over for a reason. It doesn't make any sense to any logical thinking person, unless there was something else wrong. And it wasn't until I saw Shorty on the Ace podcast, because he's still doing this thing. Was it Ace Metaphor? Is that his name? That's right. Yeah, he's still doing this thing. And Shorty was on there. She was presented with this thing, this typical scenario. A man has everything you need, right? But he's lacking in the money part, but he still makes enough money to live a comfortable life. And she's like, no, I couldn't do it. And she was like going through the machinations. And right there, it hit me. She has even a more specific target of the type of nigga that she wants. So when you talk about subjectivity, the question for her would become, do the niggas that she specifically want think she's viable? And so far, the answer is no. And so far, that would mean to them, maybe she's cooked. Now, if she's willing to open up her preferences, then maybe she's not. But we got to be honest. You know what I'm saying? I think that's how women over 35 get cooked. They still operate in a space like they still moving like they're 25. Sorry, sis, you're not. Like Delvin said. You dig what I'm saying? I think for those women, they are cooked. Flambéed. That's why, what's the version of cooking that takes a long time? You know what I'm saying? Like overtime. It's like a flash fry. It's like because what happens is y'all be the last ones to know, right? You've been in the oven all this time. and now you're dry. You know what I'm saying? There's no more moisture in there, right? And you're wondering what happened. Y'all be the last to know. That's the type of cooks y'all are. And see, go ahead.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and interrupt. Oh, I'm sorry, Devin. Can I just jump in for one small portion? First, I just want to remind folks, don't get punked into having kids before you're 35 if you're not ready. There are things called surrogacy if you have the money. There's also frozen eggs if you have the money. And even if you don't have the money, as long as you kicking it and you want to have a baby, you'll most likely have that baby. Don't get punked into having that baby before
And
you're
risk your
ready.
health. Go ahead.
So, so with that being said, go ahead. I just want to interject that, and then I'm going to say something else. Go ahead, Devin.
Well, here's where you went wrong, and this is to Nick's point, which is the same point I'm making. For the men for the Cheyenne Bryant of the world, I mean, we could say Paul Pierce is one of her peers. She's in his social circle, sphere of influence. For the Paul Pierces of the world, who's wealthy, competent, accomplished in his field, I can just go get the 27-year-old version of Cheyenne Bryant and just cut the whole we just skip past all of this. Why shouldn't he do that?
Okay, so
That's the question.
I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple things, and even something you didn't even ask.
Why shouldn't he get two of them?
So he can do that. He can go get the 25-year version of Dr. Cheyenne Bryant because he can afford to get that 25-year-old version of the Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. And so this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, and I'm going to, even though I know we're targeting this one specific, I'm going to go ahead and broaden it out one more time and just say this. So when people talk about cooked, I want to say that she's not cooked. She's just seasoned. And that seasoned is the part that some men are afraid of. They're afraid that she now has depth, clarity, and standards. And that bothers them. They're not ready for that. It scares some folks, not all, but it does scare some men. And that's why they cool with situationships, which is ironic that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant is in a situationship.
I'm not surprised at all.
And so, but with that being said, a lot of times a woman over 35 is also confident and she's not begging to be accepted, but maybe some are now that I think about it, because there's a lot of pick-me's, supposedly, I'm going to put quotation marks on that, out there. But oftentimes they just choose themselves, right? And I think that also upsets some men because she's not pressed. Dr. Bryant don't sound like she's pressed for, even though she did talk about having a baby.
You didn't watch the episode. You did not watch the episode.
No.
When it came to the baby
doesn't
part.
sound like she's pressed if she already in a situationship for what you say, 9 years?
No, 5 years.
The guy is pressed that she wants a baby this year, S&M.
Well, okay, no, she's pressed for the baby,
and
but
with
she's not pressed for.
That's cap.
I'm just saying.
You think she's gonna? You think she's gonna be a baby mama?
Situationship shit.
You think right now with her perception and all that, you think she's gonna be a baby mama? So if she's talking about
the marriage,
so if she's talking about having a baby right now, and she wanted to be married before then, and how is she not pressed for a relationship then?
What I'm saying is, you asked why she doesn't have it before, why now? Like women over 35, I'm answering the broader question is because they weren't pressed. That's why people like Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was in a situationship for 5 years until she became pressed, right? Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't aware that she was in a situationship for 5 years. And I'm laughing because it does seem odd that she's giving advice and she herself have not followed her own advice to a certain extent. And so that's kind of ironic to me. However, at the end of the day, I think a lot of times men, when they say women are cooked, it's simply because they don't like the fact that they don't tolerate as much bullshit as they used to tolerate. And these are the same men who help contribute to that bullshit track record that some other women may have experienced. And so I just find it ironic that we're always talking about women being cooked when in reality, they're not cooked. They're just seasoned.
I mean, go ahead, Delvin.
Here's why we can't say she's cooked because of stuff guys doing. By her own admission, she ended 2 engagements and engaged in a 5-year situationship.
Oh, I can't take her seriously.
That's her fault. Go ahead, Nick. I just had to get that out. That was on my
No, I'm agreeing with you with her because I didn't know she was in a situationship. First of all, that automatically was like, oh.
I think the inclination for women hearing this whole conversation about being cooked over 35, right? I think 35, interestingly, is enough. At that point, you do become higher risk when it comes to pregnancy. That's something that you just can't really avoid. And I'm always going to lean on, if a young woman is watching this show she has to ask herself what she wants for her future in her life. Asking young people to be a little bit more intentional about what they want for their future is not a bad thing. So if you're a young lady out there, yes, you want to prioritize your career. It doesn't mean you have to do so at the exclusion of finding a partner, right? You don't have to go ahead and get married and have a baby the next year. You can wait and do that. You can build a partnership. I think a lot of younger people are doing that. So I don't understand why we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. That's an indictment, I think, if women have to say, oh, I got to do this first, I got to do that first. No, you don't necessarily have to do it at the exclusion of the other, right? There's a lot of people who do that. So this idea that, oh, because I put my career first, well, you clearly were not thinking about your life in full, because come on, man, you mean to tell me Dr. Cheyenne Bryant just woke up yesterday, post 40, decided, oh, I just want to have a baby? No, she long-term had probably wanted to have a baby. So let's be clear. When I think guys are talking about who are cooked, they're talking about women who I think in this context, they might say she's cooked, even if he's not cooked for me, I think she's cooked for the nigga she wants. I think that's what a lot of people are saying, right? Just to be honest, right? And so, for example, if I wanted to still date young girls, that might be done for me because I'm an older guy. So maybe to those young ladies, I'm cooked. That's okay. Right? Everybody's going to have their audience. The problem becomes when I feel entitled to have to be accepted by a particular group and then choose not to take the signs or the lack of interest, right? Or the lack of getting what I want to, maybe cause me to pivot a little bit. So something wrong with it's only wrong when we just intimate that might be the case for women who have a particular taste. You dig what I'm saying? And it still comes, let me ask you a question, S&M. You mean to tell me, like, for example, if you see a guy and he's 37, 38, 39, good looking brother, he has his life together, everything. He's not even a player that you know of, right? But he's never been married. You know what I'm saying? Don't have any kids, but he claims he wants that. You mean to tell me that people would either question his intention for real? If he real for real, what's wrong with him? Is he gay? Like, that wouldn't be a thing. So when we see some of these women who people would say, yo, shorty, I think you check a lot of boxes. You say you want a thing. And then all of a sudden, we got to be crazy to be wondering why hasn't she found the thing that she says she wants, when she clearly has the mental capacity, the emotional intelligence, the looks, the femininity. She's probably jumping off the dresser, get all these boxes checked. Come on, man. There isn't such thing as things being too good to be true. I'll give you another example that you probably won't like. If you see a car, right? Right? It got low mileage on it. It's top notch. The car normally would go for $60,000 off the showroom. Nobody's driven it yet. It got the leather seats. You can fall into it, right? And all of a sudden it's $30,000. You're like, what the fuck, half off? Where is that at? You know what I'm saying? You mean to tell me you would have some questions? I'm not saying you wouldn't still drive it. Let me take it for a test drive real quick. You know what I'm saying? That's what niggas who are looking at these women are probably also thinking. It's not that they're necessarily something's wrong with them. They're probably having the same concerns about, well, damn, shorty, if you're all that in a bag of chips, why haven't you been snatched up already? And lastly, I'll give you another example, S&M. I'm sure there are probably people who look at you like, yo, I know she snatched up. Why? Because they think you dope. They're not surprised if you tell them, yo, I'm married. You know what? That's right. I don't understand why y'all marry people who know y'all got shows and know, you know what I'm saying? Want to pretend like, come on, man, stop playing with me. I would just stop there. But go ahead.
Let me address one of those. First and foremost, the first one is technically she was chosen. From my understanding, she was the one who called the engagements off, right? So apparently she did have opportunity. So twice she was engaged, and she was the one who stepped away from those engagements, which means that her choices aren't limited. Now they may have reached. There could have been reasons why she called them off, called off the engagements, but it shows that this was her choice.
Cap.
So her moving a certain way. Was she not engaged?
Was
she not engaged?
I'm going to tell you what. Go ahead.
Yes or no? Was she not
engaged?
engaged?
Go ahead.
Oh,
so
really?
she said, but go ahead.
So anyway,
there's no court records of her engagement, is there?
So supposedly, let's go ahead and put that in there. Supposedly then, she was engaged for twice. She called it off both times. And so that means she still had options. And she probably still have options. She's in a situationship for 5 years, right? So for her, this whole cooked and seasoned, you like a little kid over there about to come out.
Somebody might get cooked right now. Somebody's about to
I'm just saying that in her particular case, she has her own reasons for moving the way that she moved. In regards to the whole, if you're 35, the guy thing, only recently have women started asking that question in regards to, is it a red flag if a guy is over a certain age, usually 40, and they're not married or they don't have children or whatnot. It's only been recent that women started asking that. And so yes, in regards to red flags, but over 40 usually. She actually falls under that, being over 40 herself, but she's been engaged twice, and I guess folks give her a pass and extend her timeline.
I'm gonna say this, two things about the whole guy thing. Listen, I'm a guy, and if I know a guy who's 40 and he has a lot going for himself and he says he wanted marriage or whatever, he doesn't have it, I'm going to look at him with a side eye. This is not exclusive to just women. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Because to me, it doesn't fit the profile to a certain extent. Like there's just, if you look at the numbers, certain guys who college educated, make a certain amount of money, whatever, if they wanted and desire marriage, they typically would have already had it, right? So I'm not saying I'm gonna look at them crazy necessarily, but I'm going to have questions as to why a guy who could have what he wants has not yet gotten what he wants. It may not be that he can't get it, but it may be an internal thing that he has to work through. It could be mommy issues. It could be a litany of things, which brings me back to Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. When you talked about the whole, she got proposed to twice. The fact that she's in a 5-year situationship with the nigga who's probably knocking the dust off still, right? Which is literally probably opportunity costing her from me even finding the person that she really wants for real, tells me that the likelihood is she has a track record of picking niggas that she knows she's not going to be with. Right? If you intentionally pick a nigga that you know is either beneath you, not for you, too young for you, don't got enough money for you, but he got some good dick and you fucking with him or whatever, and he proposes to you, that's not a fucking flex. It's not a flex because you said no. You were always going to say no. He was never going to be that guy. The fact that you stayed in those relationships and knowing that and then cost yourself the time of being in a relationship with a guy you are worthy of, what she's not talking about is a lot of these women don't even feel worthy enough for the nigga they claim they want. Let me say that one more time in slow-mo. A lot of these women who claim they want a nigga don't even themselves feel worthy of them niggas, which is why they'll lay with niggas who are not up to par while saying that's what they want, while also costing them the opportunity to be with the nigga who's up to par. It's not that she didn't have the opportunities, that for herself, maybe she didn't believe she deserved it in the first place, right? That's the deep healing work that Dr. Cheyenne Bryant probably needs to do. Right? If she's able to diagnose people from afar, guess what? I can too. How in the fuck are you in? Excuse me, ma'am. Go ahead. What?
So now I'm glad you added that caveat of diagnosing people from afar.
Yeah, that's what this is. This is the content space. This is what we do now. I'm saying there's enough credible evidence. If she's in the current situation that she's in with a guy that she knows is not going anywhere, probably because he's too young, right?
He's 9 years her junior.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, if you're spending time with someone, it could be twice a week, it could be once a week. That time that you're spending with that person, those phone conversations, and we know most decent women aren't finna fuck one nigga one night and fuck another nigga the next night, right? So you might have to have like a little layoff period before you start giving it up. So now when you meet the guy that you actually might like, now you got to be a little bit more skittish because you can't just move freely because you've already gave the nigga that you just fucking some of your pwn. You know what I'm saying? There's an opportunity cost for laying with niggas who ain't up to par. So what I'm saying is when you mention the whole she was proposed to twice, there is evidence to suggest that she's probably choosing niggas that she don't want to be with because guess what? That young boy right now is probably the nigga number 3 who proposed to her knowing that she would never be with him. So then she could come back on somebody's podcast and be like, well, I was engaged. I was proposed to 3 times. Stop it. Right? That's the truth. You know what I'm saying? And so lastly, I'll say what I think women do and people, and this is people in general, people will rationalize why they didn't get what they wanted instead of just owning it. I didn't get, and I think to her credit, she said, you know what? When I was 20s, I wouldn't have done this. When I was 30s, I wouldn't have done this. But the way she framed it, instead of just recognizing that, yo, I was young, dumb. I thought I was a shit. I thought I had enough time. And then guess what? Time caught up to me and I never didn't get what the fuck I wanted. And now I'm scrambling, which seems to be a lot of these attractive, smart, thoughtful women in the limelight who've never been married. And that's why I said, I think those women who are over 35 for the niggas that they want are cooked. You know what I'm saying? Bing! I think that's the oven. Let me go grab my oven mitt.
Before we move on, you got any final thoughts on that, Delvin?
Shout out to Nick for just doing the Lord's work. For the Cheyenne Bryants of the world. I'm not talking about just your average run-of-the-mill, a woman over 35. They're fine. For the Cheyenne Bryants of the world, the hyper-accomplished, seasoned, high social status women, yeah, they're screwed. I stand on that.
Look, I'm just going to say before we go ahead and move to this next topic over here is that I just find this interesting because a lot of times when men are screaming that women are expired or they're cooked, they tend to be the same ones who bring in nothing but audacity to the table. No goals, no hygiene, no emotional availability, just vibes and PS5. Now, that may not be for the Dr. Cheyenne Bryant crew because as y'all mentioned, she's doing the Paul Pierce. She's in that Paul Pierce league, so to speak, of men. So that's excluding that. But overall, in general, and we had the audacity conversation, which y'all already disagreed with, when the gay guy stated that black
How
men
does
see
that
nothing
fit this?
but
How did you
audacity.
bring that into this conversation?
I'm just saying,
Audacity of you.
I'm just saying, because I'm going to go through the overgeneralization, right? The generalization first, and then, but I excluded Dr. Cheyenne Bryant because you know what? You guys got a point. And I'm acknowledging that you guys got a point that for her and the people who are looking at her for the demographic, because of the choices that she may have found that she has a much more limited selection, because the people who she's looking for is those people in the Paul Pierce group who can go out and get the 25-year-olds or 2 or 3 of them if they wanted to. So I'm acknowledging that. For everybody else, though, I'm going to say you're not cooked, you're just seasoned.